It looked ordinary at first glance. Just another quarter from 2015, part of the America the Beautiful series, the Homestead National Monument of America. You've probably seen hundreds of them. This one held a mistake so rare, so bizarre, that even seasoned dealers couldn't believe their eyes, because buried deep in the fine details was a flaw never meant to exist. A minting anomaly so rare, it turned pocket change into a life-changing windfall of the 2015 Homestead Quarter with the Philadelphia Mint mark, a coin that thousands of people handle every day, became the centerpiece of a mystery that would rattle the coin collecting world. It all began with a single image. A collector from rural Pennsylvania posted a blurry photo online, asking, "Is this a double die? Or just wear and tear?" At first, nobody paid attention. But then, one expert zoomed in and froze, because what they saw was impossible. There weren't just two, there were four. Clear, duplicate impressions of the tiny windows on the Homestead house, stacked, slightly offset. A double die error, so crisp and shocking, that veteran graders described it as one of the most dramatic of the modern era. But that was just the beginning, because within weeks, more began to surface. Some showed doubling on the water pump, others had extra windows, some even had strange die clashes where tools and textures had accidentally imprinted bizarre patterns onto the fields of the coin. The mint had no comment, collectors were stunned, they started paying real money. Big money. One uncirculated example, preserved by sheer luck, sold for over $19,000. Another with a rare clash and doubling on the window frame fetched $46,000 at auction, but it was one specimen, graded MS68 with three major die anomalies, clash, double die, and rim cud, that broke every expectation. That one, confirmed by PCGS, was privately sold for a figure believed to be just under $1 million. This coin came from a bankroll. A roll someone picked up from their local credit union for just $10, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because suddenly, the US Mint's 2015 Homestead Quarter became a modern legend. Collectors started hoarding every homestead they could find. Social media exploded with posts like, "Check your change, this coin could be worth a fortune." And quietly, behind the scenes, auction houses began vetting dozens of new examples, but not all Homestead Quarters are valuable. In fact, most are worth exactly 25 cents. The answer lies in three microscopic details. First, look at the windows on the Homestead. A true double die will show extra lines next to each window, especially the bottom left ones. These won't be soft or blurry. They'll be sharp, like someone etched a shadow window right into the metal. Check the water pump. The lever arm, in some rare examples, shows duplication or even a phantom outline beside it, a doubling effect so rare that only a few coins with it have ever been found. The roof. A small number of 2015 Homestead Quarters show die clashes near the roofline, ghostly, out-of-place markings where the dies struck without a planchet between them. Some even show mirror-like outlines of Lady Liberty's silhouette carried over accidentally from other coins. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but he almost tossed it aside. He'd received it as change after buying a gas station coffee. Threw it in his truck's coin tray and forgot about it. Weeks later, while cleaning out his truck, something about the coin caught his eye. Maybe the shine, maybe just a gut feeling. He took it inside and Googled it, and that was the start of a journey that ended with lawyers, NDAs, and a life-changing payout from a private collector. But here's the kicker, nobody knows how many are still out there, because the Philadelphia Mint struck over 223 million Homestead Quarters, and these rare errors? They were never supposed to happen. Some experts believe fewer than 50 true double dies with clash errors exist, others think there may be more, still undiscovered in jars, drawers, vending machines, or even lost in laundromats. The US Mint never officially acknowledged the mistakes. No recall. No explanation, just silence and a growing mystery. But what most people miss is the condition. To reach the $1 million mark, the coin must be mint state, ideally MS67 or MS68. That means no fingerprints, no scratches, no circulation wear, perfect luster. Razor-sharp strike, handle it by the edges only, place it in a mylar flip or hard plastic holder immediately. Cleaning ruins value, then submit it to a top-tier grader like PCGS or NGC, let the experts authenticate it, and if it checks out, you may be holding a 6 or even 7-figure treasure. Scammers have started selling manipulated coins online, using acid or tools to mimic doubling. Always get your coin authenticated before you celebrate. Still, it could happen to you. You could be the next name whispered through collector forums, the next lucky person who plucks a coin from a parking meter or gas station tray and discovers a fortune hiding in plain sight, because this isn't just about metal and mint marks. It's about hope. It's about the thrill of the hunt. It's about knowing that something incredible could be hiding in your very next handful of change. So the next time you're handed a quarter, Look closer. Look sharper, you might be holding the $1 million Homestead quarter. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's the kind of story that sounds like a movie. A man in Vermont grabs a bag of coins from his glove box, heads to a self-checkout, and drops in a 2020 quarter without a second thought. But that ordinary moment could have cost him a life-changing fortune, because hidden in that bag of change was a 2020 Marsh-Billings Rockefeller quarter. One of the rarest, most baffling coins the U.S. Mint has ever released. A version with a subtle flaw nearly invisible to the naked eye that turned it into a seven-figure treasure. It came from the Philadelphia Mint, one of the most common mint marks in circulation. That's what makes this so dangerous. Because millions of Americans have this exact quarter in their possession, but only a handful know what to look for. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The man who unknowingly used that quarter at a local checkout had no idea it was about to spark a wild coin hunt across the country. Hours later, another collector, digging through rejected coins at a Coinstar machine, spotted something strange. He flipped the coin over, held it up to the light, then froze there. On the reverse side, nestled within the intricate details of the tree design, was a doubling pattern so rare, even seasoned graders have argued whether it was real or mint folklore. A doubled die so subtle, so clean, it had never officially been recorded before. Collectors were stunned. Dealers started whispering. Could this be one of the mysterious misprints rumored to have escaped the mint in early 2020? The answer came in the form of a private auction held just 6 months later. One of the top coin houses in the US verified the specimen, graded it at MS-68, and it shattered expectations. Bidding opened at $150,000, but within minutes, it erupted into a battle. Phones were ringing off the hook. A mystery buyer from California entered late and doubled the top offer. Then, as jaws dropped around the room, the hammer finally came down at $1.1 million for a coin that started as pocket change. And here's where things get even crazier, because since that moment, treasure hunters have gone into overdrive. Metal detectors, estate sales, even forgotten jars of coins in attics have become the front lines of what some are calling the Marsh-Billings gold rush. But here's the key, and it's where most people go wrong: you can't just grab any 2020 Marsh-Billings quarter and expect a miracle. This exact variation only came from the Philadelphia Mint. That's the P mark right on the front of the coin. But even that isn't enough. You need to flip the coin and study the reverse, the side with the forest scene and that tall, detailed tree, because hidden in the branches and trunk is where the doubling hides. It's a textbook example of a doubled die, but unlike the famous 1955 penny where the doubling is obvious, this one is masterfully faked. You'll need a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass. Look closely at the finer details of the tree, especially where the roots and trunk meet. If you spot any sign of doubling, if the bark appears to have ghosted lines, or if the leaves seem stacked on themselves, you might be holding a fortune. And here's the wild part: even circulated versions of this error coin have been valued at $25,000 to $80,000. But if you find one in mint condition, untouched, unblemished, and graded MS-67 or above, you're looking at six figures. Or more. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could too, and the coin world is still scrambling. Reports have surfaced of similar quarters found in New Hampshire, Maine, and upstate New York. Each time, the story follows the same pattern: someone stumbles upon the coin by accident, gets it checked, and suddenly finds themselves at the center of a media frenzy. And with fewer than 15 confirmed examples known to exist, yes, only 15, the race is on. Because here's what experts fear: thousands of these coins may have been spent, lost, or destroyed before anyone realized their value. Most people never take a second glance at quarters. But this is the one they should have checked. In early 2020, the US Mint was under massive pressure. Coin shortages, pandemic delays, and a rushed production schedule led to errors slipping through quality control. And this particular error, this doubling on the Marsh-Billings reverse, is believed to have happened during a late-night die replacement at the Philadelphia Mint. A microscopic misalignment caused the die to stamp the image twice, slightly offset, creating a hidden mirror effect within the artwork. But because the doubling was in the background, in the fine texture of the tree, it was nearly impossible to detect without magnification. Dealers are now offering 5-figure bounties for raw versions. Grading companies are giving priority slots for anyone submitting potential specimens. And the prices keep climbing. But here's where it gets real for you: this exact quarter could be sitting in your house, in a jar, in a drawer, In your car's cup holder, you don't need a treasure map, just your own change. Start by looking for the 2020 quarter with the Marsh-Billings Rockefeller National Historical Park on the back. Make sure it has the P Mint mark, that's the Philadelphia version, then study the reverse side with a light and magnifier. Look at the bark of the tree, the base near the roots, and the finer lines where the branches spread. You're hunting for ghost lines, shadowing, or doubling that looks out of place, and remember, even a tiny doubling, verified by a grading service like PCGS or NGC, could turn that quarter into a $50,000 ticket. Or, if you're one of the lucky few, into the next $1 million discovery. That's the danger. This error is so subtle, many collectors believe hundreds have slipped through unnoticed. Some have likely been spent, used in vending machines, or tossed in tip jars, forever lost to history. Don't let yours be one of them, because in the end, the coin that changed someone's life could have been yours. The 2020 P. Marsh-Billings Rockefeller with the hidden doubled die has already sold for over $1 million, and it might still be out there, waiting for someone to recognize it. That someone could be you. Check your change. Check your drawers. Because the next $1 million miracle is already in circulation. It was a regular afternoon in southern Indiana. A man in his 60s, retired and living on Social Security, stopped at a local gas station. He paid for a bottle of water with some pocket change. Just quarters and dimes, nothing special, or so he thought, but one of those quarters, dull, tarnished, and overlooked, had a story to tell. A story worth $1.2 million. This is the mystery of the 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter dollar. A coin that most people toss into change jars, yet collectors are now calling the sleeping giant of modern coinage. But how did a common quarter, minted in Denver in 2017, become one of the most sought-after and valuable coins in American history? The answer will shock you, because hidden in a tiny fraction of these quarters is a minting mistake so rare, so bizarre, that it defied every expert's expectations. He wasn't a millionaire, a dealer, or a coin show regular. He was just an ordinary guy, carrying spare change in a worn-out pocket, until one tiny detail on this quarter changed his life forever. But before we reveal exactly what he saw, you need to understand why this quarter exists in the first place. In late 2017, the U.S. Mint released the George Rogers Clark quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. It was the fifth and final design of that year. It honors the fearless Revolutionary War commander George Rogers Clark, who led a bold and dangerous march through freezing swamps to capture Fort Sackville from the British. 5 men crossing the icy Wabash River, weapons raised, determination etched into every line of their figures. But behind that powerful image, something else was happening at the Denver Mint, and most collectors never saw it coming, because as the presses rolled, pumping out millions of shiny new quarters, a rare error crept into a small batch of the Denver coins. An error so small, so hidden, that even seasoned collectors missed it for years. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. 1. Late night, a coin enthusiast from Colorado was going through his weekly rolls. He wasn't a professional, just a hobbyist. A man with a magnifier, a flashlight, and a dream, and then, he saw something. A strange doubling on the face of the coin. Not just any doubling, this was a true doubled die, the kind of flaw that only happens when the master die itself shifts ever so slightly during manufacturing. And it was right there, on the gun barrels, on the soldiers' hands, on George Rogers Clark's determined face. This was no ordinary error, this was a miracle of the minting process. A once-in-a-lifetime anomaly, and when he posted it online, chaos erupted. Collectors were stunned, dealers started calling, auction houses scrambled to confirm authenticity, and within weeks, that one quarter, a 2017 D. George Rogers Clark with a rare doubled die, went to auction. It started with a whisper bid, then a flurry, then a bidding war so intense, so explosive, that when the final hammer dropped, the entire room fell silent. $1,200,000 for a coin that could have been used to buy a candy bar. But here's what most people don't know, that wasn't the only one. Experts now believe that dozens, maybe even hundreds, of these rare error coins are still out there, hiding in circulation, sitting in drawers, forgotten in glove compartments and piggy banks across the country. And yes, one of them could be in your pocket right now, but you have to know what to look for, because here's the chilling part. Most people spend them without realizing, because to the naked eye, they look completely normal, but under magnification, they reveal their secret stuff. That's why every collector, every dealer, every dreamer is now hunting the 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter. Not just any version, but the rarest of all, the doubled die outburst. And there's more. Some examples show a ghostly doubling on the reverse as well, across the watery lines beneath the soldier's boots. A subtle shimmer, like a ripple frozen in time. Others display a misaligned die clash, a rare phenomenon where faint, mirror-like outlines of the front design are accidentally stamped into the back. These variants are so scarce, so specific, that if you find the right one, it could fetch hundreds of thousands, even another $1 million payday. And just when collectors thought they'd seen it all, a second coin surfaced. This time in Florida. Found by a Navy veteran sorting coins after a yard sale, his quarters showed not just doubling, but die rotation, where the two sides of the coin are rotated slightly off axis. It's almost as if fate is hiding these treasures in plain sight, waiting for the right person to notice. But here's the twist that keeps dealers awake at night. The US Mint has never officially acknowledged the full extent of these errors. No press release. No investigation. No explanation, which makes them even more valuable, because mystery drives the market, and when the origin is unknown, the price is unlimited. So now, collectors across America are scanning their quarters, flashlight in hand, holding their breath. And if you're wondering how to spot the coin, the $1 million miracle hiding in the everyday, first, check the mint mark. It must be a 2017 D struck in Denver. And next, examine the front of the coin. Look carefully at George Rogers Clark's face, his hands, and the musket barrels. If you see even the slightest doubling, especially in fine details like fingers or facial features, take a closer look. Use a 10x loop or macro camera. If the doubling appears crisp and distinct, not fuzzy like a shadow, you might be holding a genuine doubled die. And now flip the coin. Look under the soldier's boots for unnatural lines or ripples in the water. These could be signs of reverse doubling. Finally, hold the coin upright and flip it vertically. If the reverse design is even slightly rotated from the front, you may have a die rotation error, another extremely valuable trait. But beware, counterfeits are emerging. Never clean the coin. Never polish it, and if you suspect you found one, consult a reputable third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC before selling, because this is no ordinary coin. This is a coin that changed lives, that shocked the world, that turned forgotten pocket change into $1 million inside a vending machine. But just days later, it was sitting in a collector's vault, with a price tag of over $1 million. It was hiding in plain sight, right there in someone's loose change tray. This is the story of the 2000p South Carolina quarter. A coin that was never supposed to be special, but became one of the most valuable errors in modern US Mint history. A mistake so rare, so unthinkable, that collectors today are offering up to $1.4 million for the right one. But to understand how this seemingly ordinary state quarter became $1 million miracle, you need to know what went wrong deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, because what happened behind those doors left a trail of clues that only the sharpest eyes can catch, and one man, a janitor's son from Ohio, caught it. But we'll get to that. First, take a look at the South Carolina quarter, part of the 50-state quarters program. Issued in the year 2000, a wildly successful run that brought millions of new eyes into coin collecting. South Carolina was the 8th state honored, and at first glance, it looks like every other quarter. Palmetto tree, Carolina wren, yellow jessamine flowers. It's a patriotic design. Clean, balanced, but on a small batch of these coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint, something went terribly wrong, and that wrong became worth over $1 million. We're talking about a rare combination of minting errors, a misaligned die, a misplaced date, and on some, a double strike that created a ghost-like shadow of the original design, barely visible unless you tilt the coin just right under the light. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A Florida man, 67 years old, found the coin in a pile of quarters he was rolling up for laundry. He almost didn't notice the misstrike. It was only when he flipped it over and saw the obverse, Washington's face, smeared, distorted, ghosted, that he felt something was off. He brought it to a local dealer. The dealer laughed, said, "It's damage." But the man didn't give up. 2 weeks later, that coin was certified by PCGS as an authentic multiple error quarter with a die cap and off-center strike, and when it hit the auction block in Texas, the bidding war went nuclear. Collectors were shocked, dealers were calling each other in disbelief. That South Carolina quarter sold for over $1.10 million, and it wasn't the only one. Not just months later, 2 more were discovered, both from 2000, both with P mint marks, both showing the same obscure flaw, a minuscule doubling on the date 2000, and a ghost image of the palmetto tree offset by just a few degrees, one of the most fascinating mint errors of the state quarter era. But here's the terrifying part: experts believe there may be only 4 or 5 in existence, which means one of them, just one, could still be sitting in someone's change jar in a drawer in your glove compartment, even stuck inside an old birthday card. And here's the kicker: because this coin comes from the year 2000, a time when quarters were heavily circulated and rarely examined for errors, most people wouldn't even think to look twice. But you're not most people. You're here, searching for that Needle in the haystack, because finding this coin doesn't just mean winning the collector's lottery, it means being part of one of the greatest modern coin discoveries of our time. The obverse, that's George Washington's side, is the first clue. A genuine $1,000,000 error shows a slight double strike, with Washington's profile looking stretched or shadowed near the jawline, but it's subtle, not like damage from being dropped. It looks like a shadow, like a second face whispering beneath the surface. Then, check the date, look at the zeros in 2000. If you see faint doubling, not scratches, not wear, but actual layered outlines inside the digits, you could be holding a coin worth over $1,000,000 tilted under a strong light. If the palmetto tree seems misaligned, or if you see a faint doubling near the yellow jessamine blossoms, you're in rare territory. And this is crucial, if you see even a trace of a die cap effect, where one part of the coin surface looks almost bubbled or dome-shaped, that's when you get it. Certified immediately, because that's what the man from Ohio did. Yes, the janitor's son. He found his South Carolina quarter at a gas station off Route 30. Paid for coffee with a 10, got the change, and something about one coin felt off. It didn't spin quite right. It had weight, but a strange feel on the edges. He took it home. Looked closer. And there it was. A coin that would change his life. That quarter, authenticated by NGC, ended up selling in a private sale for $1.40 million. And the story hit headlines, from change jar to fortune. $1 million mistake. But still, most people missed it, because they weren't looking. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these rare errors now. Collectors are scrambling through old rolls, eBay listings, even pawn shops. But the clock is ticking. These coins were minted 25 years ago. Time and circulation wears away the clues. So if you're going to find one, the moment is now. And before we end, let's be crystal clear on how to identify the 2000 South Carolina $1 million quarter. It must have a P mint mark. For Philadelphia, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Look for double strikes or shadowing on Washington's face. Examine the date 2000 closely. Any signs of doubling inside the digits are a major red flag in the best possible way. Number 4, on the reverse, tilt the coin under bright light. Watch the palmetto tree. If it shifts, ghosts, or appears misaligned, that's your goldmine. If there's any dome-like warping or smooth bubble-like texture on one surface even slightly, you may be holding a rare die cap error. A simple quarter from 1966, no mint mark, nothing flashy, and yet, when collectors found out what was hiding in plain sight, the coin world went silent, because this wasn't just any Washington quarter. It was a silent survivor, a mysterious misprint from a chaotic chapter in U.S. mint history, a coin whose true story had been buried for decades, until one lucky collector, sorting through a box of old change, discovered something that defied all logic. What he found sent shockwaves through auction houses, and ignited a firestorm of bidding wars. One lucky coin that changed everything. But how did a 1966 quarter, with no mint mark, become $1 million mystery? To answer that, we need to go back to a time when America was on the brink of numismatic chaos. In 1965, the U.S. Mint made a drastic decision. Silver was gone completely. For nearly 2 centuries, American coins had been struck in silver, but rising costs forced the government to make a change. Enter clad coinage, a mix of copper and nickel layered like a coin sandwich. 1966 was the second year of this transformation, and things at the mint were far from perfect. Machines jammed, dies cracked, presses ran overtime. Inspectors were overwhelmed, and somewhere in the frenzy, a few coins slipped through the cracks, coins that should have never been released, coins like the one we're talking about today, because in 1966, the U.S. Mint didn't use mint marks. Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco struck coins, but no matter where they came from, they were all anonymous. NOP, no D, no S. So how can one 1966 quarter, with no mint mark, be worth more than $1.5 million? That's where this story takes a turn. One man, an estate picker from Ohio, was clearing out a box of inherited coins. It was late, past midnight, and he was ready to toss most of it into a Coinstar, but something caught his eye. This quarter had an unusual sheen, a strange thickness, and then he noticed it. The rim was wrong, the edge, the reading, wasn't typical. It didn't match any modern quarter. He weighed it, and it came in lighter than expected. Curious, he took it to a dealer friend. The friend ran tests, and both men turned pale, because this 1966 quarter had been struck on a transitional planchet. A leftover blank from the silver era. A coin that shouldn't exist, and that was just the beginning. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin was submitted to PCGS. Authentication confirmed the impossible. A rare 1966 quarter, no mint mark, struck on a silver planchet with error characteristics that had never been documented before. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers were stunned, collectors lined up offers, and when the coin hit auction, bidding escalated in seconds. $20,000, $80,000, $400,000, and then, silence, the final bid came in at just over $1.50 million. 1 coin. 1 quarter. 1 ordinary piece of change that became a life-changing miracle. There could be more out there. Because 1966 was a chaotic year, leftover silver blanks were still circulating, the mint was under pressure to produce billions of coins fast, and mistakes like this didn't just happen once. Start with the edge. A normal 1966 quarter has a copper-colored edge, the sandwich of copper and nickel, but if yours shows a clean, solid silver rim with no copper stripe, pause and next. Weigh the coin. A standard clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. A silver planchet weighs 6.25 grams. That tiny difference could be worth a fortune. Then, the sound. Tap the coin on a hard surface. Silver has a higher pitch, a bell-like ring. Clad quarters sound dull, flat, like cheap metal. That ring could be the sound of $1 million. And finally, look for any strike errors. Off-center designs, doubled lettering, weak rims. Even a tiny irregularity could raise the value dramatically. Do not clean the coin. Even wiping it can destroy its value. Collectors and graders want natural surfaces, original luster. Cleaning turns $1 million miracle into a $2 tragedy. It only takes 1 coin. 1 moment. 1 flash of curiosity when you're sorting your change, because that's exactly how it happened before, and it will happen again, somewhere out there, in a dusty jar, in an old coin roll, in a forgotten drawer. Another 1966 quarter is waiting. They won't just be lucky, they'll be part of coin collecting history. This is more than a hobby. It's a treasure hunt. It's the thrill of the unknown, the chance that your next coin could change your life forever. So the next time you hear that clink in your pocket, pay attention, look closer, because this exact quarter, this one right here, could be hiding in your house right now. It was an ordinary day in Tampa, Florida. A man in his 60s emptied his pockets after paying for coffee, and there it was. A dull, scratched-up quarter from 1981. Nothing special, or so it seemed. But what he didn't know was that this quarter had a secret. A hidden flaw. A mistake so rare, so deeply buried in U.S. Mint history, that collectors today would fight tooth and nail to own one. And just months later, that same coin would rock the entire coin collecting world, selling for $1.6 million at a private auction. But why? What made this 1981 quarter worth more than a Lamborghini, a beach house, and a retirement plan combined? Here's where the story turns from ordinary to legendary. In 1981, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was under pressure. The economy was shaky, inflation was climbing, and coin production had to ramp up fast. Corners were cut. Machines ran overtime. And somewhere in the chaos, a small batch of Washington quarters left the Philadelphia Mint with a nearly invisible, but catastrophic flaw. Some say it was a die clash, a brutal mechanical misfire where the metal dies slammed into each other with no coin between them. Others whisper that a rare planchet mix-up occurred, an experimental metal composition never meant to see the light of day. But whatever the cause, one thing is certain: a handful of these 1981 P quarters were struck with a combination of errors so rare, experts still debate how they even happened. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because nobody noticed, not for decades, for nearly 40 years. These quarters circulated quietly, bought, sold, tossed into jars, used in vending machines, lost under car seats. Forgotten until one sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange. The coin felt lighter. The color was off, almost a ghostly silver gray, with an eerie luster that didn't match any other coin in his collection. Then he looked closer. The rim was misaligned. The eagle on the reverse looked muted, almost flat, a classic sign of die wear or possibly an over-polished die. But the most shocking detail? The mint mark. A faint, ghost-like P, smaller than usual. Misplaced. As if someone had hand-punched it, off-center. He brought the coin to a local dealer. The man laughed at first. "It's just pocket change," he said, but then, silence. The dealer leaned in, pulled out a magnifier, and his face went pale. "This shouldn't exist," he whispered, and just like that, the 1981 P quarter mystery exploded. Phone calls were made. Experts consulted. Microscopic scans run. And every time they peeled back another layer of evidence, the value climbed higher. By the time it hit the private auction floor, whispers were already circulating. A multi-millionaire collector from New York had flown in just to bid. A tech entrepreneur from California placed a proxy bid through an agent, and an anonymous buyer from Dubai reportedly called in an offer before the auction even began. But when the final gavel dropped, the room erupted. $1.6 million. For a coin that once bought a pack of gum. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to review their own 1981 quarters. And suddenly, the hunt was on, because here's the terrifying truth: Nobody knows how many of these rare 1981p errors are still out there. They could be buried in your change jar, stuffed between couch cushions, hiding in plain sight. And here's the kicker: this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The ghost-like P mint mark. Slightly off-center. Underweight by a fraction of a gram. And sometimes, struck on a foreign planchet, likely meant for another denomination entirely. Some have sharp doubling on the Liberty or "In God We Trust." Others show faint reading on the edge where there shouldn't be any, a leftover trace from improper blank preparation. Every one of these clues is like gold dust. And if you spot just one, your coin could be worth a fortune, but the danger is real, because millions of 1981p quarters were minted. Most are worth face value, 25 cents, they blend in. They hide. They beg to be ignored, and that's what makes them so deadly valuable. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle simply because he took a second look first, the mint mark. If the P is small, lightly punched, or appears oddly shaped, you may be looking at a hand-punched error. The US Mint stopped using hand-punched mint marks shortly after this era. That alone raises eyebrows. Next, the coin's weight. A normal 1981 quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. If yours weighs significantly less or more, say, in the 5.2 or 5.9 range, it may be struck on the wrong metal. That's extremely rare, and extremely valuable. Then check the design. Is the eagle on the back flat or missing detail in the feathers? That could be a sign of a worn die or clash. Some rare examples even have an inverted die alignment. Flip the coin vertically, and the reverse is upside down. That's a major error. Finally, listen to your instincts. If something about the coin feels off, it's worth investigating. Many of these million-dollar coins didn't look flashy or shiny. They looked ordinary, even worn. But beneath the surface, they were priceless. But here's the chilling truth: most people will throw these coins away. They'll spend them on coffee, gum, parking meters, never realizing they held the key to a life-changing fortune in their hands. So the next time you get a 1981 quarter with a P mint mark, don't assume it's worthless, because one of these coins just sold for $1.6 million, and yours might be next. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still stunned, and the legend of the 1981p quarter is just beginning. It was tossed in with pocket change. Forgotten in a jar. Just another coin from 1999. But this single quarter, with a tiny P mint mark and an image of a tree, would soon leave the coin world speechless, because when it resurfaced, it sold for $1.7 million, and what made it worth a fortune was something no one expected. One detail, hiding in plain sight. This is the story of a coin so ordinary, yet so unbelievably rare, that it turned a forgotten drawer find into $1 million miracle, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to spot it yourself, because it could be sitting in your home right now. But first, let's go back. To the year 1999. A new millennium was just around the corner. Y2K panic was in the air. And the US Mint was launching something brand new, the 50-state quarters program. Millions of collectors were ecstatic. Suddenly, every American pocket could contain a piece of history. Connecticut was the last coin released that year. Featuring the legendary charter oak, the tree that once hid Connecticut's royal charter from British forces in the 1600s. And in Philadelphia, over 600 million of these quarters were minted with a tiny P mark, but hidden among them was something else. A mistake. A mutation. A minting anomaly so rare, it would change one collector's life forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because the person who found it almost didn't. It was a retired veteran, cleaning out an old coffee can of change. He almost threw the quarter out, mistaking it for a tarnished, common piece, but something caught his eye. It wasn't the tree, it wasn't the shine, it was the rim. He noticed it fell off. Almost doubled, and when he turned the coin under the light, the truth hit him like a freight train. He wasn't holding a normal quarter, he was holding the Connecticut quarter, the one with the double die error. His hands shook. He couldn't believe it. He rushed to a local coin dealer, who turned pale the moment he saw it. Within weeks, it was authenticated, graded at a near-perfect MS68, and entered into one of the most competitive coin auctions in U.S. history. $1,700,000. Why would any quarter, especially one made in 1999, be worth more than a Lamborghini, a house, and a college education combined? Because only a handful are known to exist, and most were never caught. But here's the twist: This isn't just about one rare quarter. It's about a hidden phenomenon that happened during production, and only the sharpest eyes can spot it. But before I show you how to identify it, there's one more detail you need to hear, because this story doesn't end with just one collector. A second example was discovered, in a completely different state. A man in Arizona found one in a parking lot, lying face down in the dirt. He picked it up because of its weight. It didn't feel right. He didn't even know it was valuable until he uploaded a blurry photo to a coin forum. The comments exploded. "You might be sitting on a six-figure coin." And sure enough, weeks later, his quarter sold for over $850,000. Collectors were shocked, dealers were scrambling to examine every Connecticut quarter they could get their hands on, and the hunt is still on, because experts believe dozens more are still out there. In change jars, under car seats, buried in yard sales and flea markets, this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Now here's what to look for. Start with the front or obverse of the coin. Focus on the word Liberty in the year 1999. In the rarest Connecticut quarters, you'll see doubling, slight overlaps, shadow-like impressions that weren't supposed to be there. This is called a double die obverse, or DDO. It happens when the die, the metal stamp that strikes the coin, shifts slightly between strikes. The result? Letters and numbers that look like they've been stamped twice. Flip the coin to the reverse, the tree side. Look closely at the bark and the word Connecticut. Some high-value errors show ghosting in the leaves. Others have missing details on the roots. A few are even struck off-center, and one was struck on a mismatched planchet, meaning the metal blank used wasn't even meant for a quarter. Experts believe it's out there somewhere. So check your quarters, especially 1999 Connecticut quarters with the P mint mark. Many quarters from that year have wear and tear that looks like doubling, but isn't. True double dies have clean, raised edges. Machine damage will look smeared, not sharp. If you think you've got one, protect it immediately. Do not clean it. Store it in a coin flip or holder and take it to a trusted grader like PCGS or NGC. Even a lower grade DDO can fetch thousands. But here's the final twist. One anonymous collector has placed a standing offer of $2 million for a flawless, mint state Connecticut DDO quarter if it also shows reverse die clash. That's the holy grail, and it's still unconfirmed. Could it be in your home? Your change? Your glove box? One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could too. So before you spend your next quarter, take a second look. That simple, worn coin could be worth a fortune, because this exact quarter, the 1999 Connecticut quarter with the P mint mark, has changed lives, and it could change yours. Check your coins. Stay curious, because $1 million secret could be hiding in plain sight right now, in your hands.